Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that crown. Turn it up, let them know it's about to go down. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chaser, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout.
It's about to go down.
Yes, you are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports as Ordered. Tonight, we got a lot of things to get into. The NBA has some new ideas on how to fix tanking. College football is meeting with the president of the United States. And then we're going to talk about the Chicago Bears just one more time, hopefully just for now. You know, because I have with me the one and only world famous, world renowned. He is Mr. Logical. I am 2-5. You should be liking, reviewing, subscribing, sharing, rating, doing all those free things, doing all the good things, having those liquid deaths in your hand, checking us out wherever you get your podcast. Say less, say more. Holla back. Let's get right into it, Mr. Logical. We've been talking about tanking the last week or so. You know, been
and
taking
it seemed like everybody else started talking about it a lot more.
I know,
Funny
right?
how that worked.
And we've been talking about it a lot more than we probably thought that we ever would have. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put up these things on the screen that the NBA is thinking about. I'm going to pause for a second, let you look at it for a little bit, and then I'm going to jump right back in with point number 1. So, you know, so make sure you can see that okay. All right, so taking it from the top here, you know, first round draft picks can be protected only for top 4 or top 14 plus selections. So, you know, protected draft picks is always a crazy thing to talk about because, you know, every year you have teams like Oklahoma City who have picks from certain teams. Like last year it was Philadelphia, and if Philly would have drafted, I think it was top 6 or like below number 6, OKC would have got their pick. So in this scenario, you can only do it for your top 4 or top 14 plus. So I'm guessing that means everything in the middle from 5 to 13 is off limits. Not quite really understanding that one.
Yeah, as I was reading it, I was like, I'm not sure of any like teams that have tanked to get the 14th pick. So I'm not sure why that's even part of. Maybe I'm just not understanding the language, the way it's written. It just doesn't, like, you can first 4 picks can be protected. Like, so protected against what? Against tanking? Like, if you get the 5th pick and they deem that you tanked, you just don't get that pick.
So basically,
if to the 4th pick.
So basically, if the pick is, so this is that scenario I was talking about with OKC. So if the pick is 1 through 4, then the original team keeps it. If it's 5 or later, it goes back to the team that it was traded to originally. So using those
you
two
played poorly and you ended up in the lottery, but because they deemed, like, what would they would have to use some kind of barometer to say that you were tanking versus just having an injured team or a young team or a poorly coached team or an underfunded team. So it's like you're just
this is kind of the problem, right?
For the ping pong ball not getting them to 4.
Well, this is kind of the problem,
you
right?
have 4 instances throughout the year of like you were fined for tanking this many times, and now this is your punishment. That would make sense, but there has to be some kind of precursor, some kind of preamble to the institution of this rule. At least as I'm understanding right now, as we're kind of
using Philly and OKC, since those are the two teams that we talked about from last year. If the pick would have been 1 through 4, and under this rule, Philly would keep it. But then if it was 5,
I don't know if is that tanking? But is that a tanking thing, or is that just a draft pick thing? Because I think that's
it's just a draft. Well, it's supposed to be.
This is supposed to be the curb tanking. But if Philly just had a bad year because Embiid missed 47 games, and in those 47 games they went 13-24,
and that's where we have to find out
games.
Well, that's where we have to find out the context behind the rule, because I know that we talk about the college football playoff all the time, where they get a result that they don't like, and then they manipulate a rule to change it the next season.
If the Buffalo Bills lose in the playoffs, they change the rule, because that interception rule is going to be changed.
Yeah, and don't forget the overtime rule that they had already changed.
Yeah, they had already changed,
Yeah, so that's what I'm getting from that. And then for the top 14 part, that's the lottery protection. So if the pick is 1 through 14, the original team keeps it. But if it's 15 or later, it goes to the other team. So the two teams make the trade, and then depending on where the pick falls within those windows, determines which one of the teams in the trade gets the pick.
Yeah, that seems like a lot. Like I said, the way I'm reading it, it just seems as if they deem that you tanked to get potentially a top 4 pick, and the lottery balls don't work out in your favor, we just exclude you from there's the or needs to be a comma with another sentence explaining what that even means, because like I said, the way you're interpreting is like, hey, if you're in a situation with you made a trade and you ended up in this, then you lose it or the other team keeps it, whatever the case may be. The way I'm interpreting is that if they deem that you tank to get an opportunity to be in the lottery, then you just but that doesn't make sense.
I don't think that they're necessarily so I know this is supposed to be,
if they're combating tanking, I'm just under the assumption that if they're going to if this rule or this theory is to combat tanking, then I'm assuming by that logic they are looking at the current bottom 14 teams right now. But if they're going to just give them the pick anyway, then this piece is probably sounding good, and maybe if we have more context, we'd understand.
Right, and like I said, these are just proposals. These aren't in effect or anything.
Yeah.
And then the next one we talked about a little bit, the lottery odds freezing at the trade deadline or somewhere down the road. And I think this has the opposite intent. Like if you're a team, because right now the problem is theoretically people start the season playing the right way. We get to the trade deadline, and then a team decides our season is over. So now we're going to try to get the best odds that we possibly can.
Real quick,
in this scenario, you're telling them to tank.
Does it every year.
But in this scenario, you're telling them to tank as the season starts. You know what I mean?
Well,
because
what you're telling them is you can tank after February, and it's irrelevant because you're locked.
Well, no, if after February you just play. So the way that I'm thinking of it is the season starts. And hypothetically, you start out, say, 3-17. You're already on your way to the high odds. You know what I mean? So, there's no need to go all out with the first half of the season. Then when the odds freeze, your position, is where it is. And you just play the rest of the season and ball out. So you're putting the tanking on the other side.
I think, the ball out part with this. Like I said, I'm glad this is just a proposal that's not actually being put into place, because I think as a coach or a fan base, if March 1st, because we got the NBA All-Star game is normally around Valentine's Day. So you give it the rest of the month of February, and you get about maybe 5-6 more games, maybe about 4 or 5 games. So you're about 60 games in at the end of February, give or take, about 20 games left. So you give it to game 62. Whenever all the teams have played their 60-second game, the next day you cut off the odds. you're not inspiring players to play or teams to play their guys for the last 20 games now. So you're playing that you built as an extra entertainment piece to keep teams that are at 11 to keep battling for 10 for a chance to make the 20 team playoff with the play-in, and then subsequently the 18 playoff. You lose that piece because a team at 11 on each side is probably somewhere between 6 and 8 overall. So if I'm at 11 March 1st and you want me to still try to play hard to make the play-in when my odds are locked in, it's like I'm going to rest Markkanen even more. I'm going to definitely shut down LaMelo Ball if he has like an aching whatever, if we're in that position. So that takes away your play-in as entertainment, because that was my argument for the play-in that you didn't like. Was like, well, at least if the teams are at 12, 10, 11, and 12 are within a game of each other for the last couple of weeks, maybe they'll play it out. Dallas Mavericks did it last year. They tried to play it out. Then Kyrie got hurt and AD was already hurt, and they shut the whole thing down. But they made an effort to try to make the play-in with the post-trade, post-Luka, debacle fiasco that they had going on. But if you're Washington at game 62, then you're just like, all right, cool. Now you have no fans in the stands, and you have a bigger problem because now you have 14 teams with 20 games left who don't care who they put on the floor.
Yeah, I just think that you're moving the tanking from side to side. So instead of the last couple of months of the season or the last month of the season where people are gearing up for the playoffs, you're just incentivizing teams to start the season wrong. Because, like, say, for example, right, earlier this year, Cleveland, this wouldn't apply to them because they're obviously going to make the playoffs. But Darius Garland came into the season with that toe injury. And, he missed about the first 15 to 20 games of the season. Well, in that scenario, I might sit you out 30. If I'm another team that is that's projected to be at the bottom, because this doesn't have to just be because I know the NBA is focused on, hey, you're sitting these guys right now, they're healthy. We'll get into the Aaron Nesmith thing in a second. You're sitting these guys, but what if I just never start them to start the season? You can't stop me from doing that because you don't know the extent of their injury unless you're going to bring doctors in yourself to verify these things.
And and I'm not required to give a doctor I don't know information about me. There's nothing requiring me saying, hey, I got to talk to this doctor and tell them what's going on with me.
So then this is a rule that I came up with last year when we had this conversation about how to fix tanking. So teams are no longer allowed to pick in the top 4 back-to-back years or after they finish in the bottom 3 2 years in a row. So that was something that I came up with last year because I was thinking about the Detroit Pistons a couple of years ago. They finished, I want to say they picked number 5 3 years in a row. And it was kind of like, well, look at them now, right? Like here they are.
And their odds for one were pretty high every year as well.
Yeah, first place in the Eastern Conference right now, on their way to being the favorite, to win the East, built off of sucking, for at least 3 years in a row, but way longer than that, to get these 3 top 5 picks so that, they got Cade Cunningham, they got Jaden Ivey, who they traded now, and then, of course, Asar Thompson.
But that's my piece with that's my overall thing, and I'll get more to it as we get through this whole list. But I don't think tanking is the NBA's problem. I think tanking for the teams that tank, there's a remedy for it. You just find them. If it's clear you're up by a certain amount of points, you don't even need to put a rule in a rule book. You could just go back to just basic competitive fair play, like the basic doctrine that governs how you play this game with integrity. And if they can clearly see you're pulling starters or you're not starting guys or you're sitting guys because you want to lose games, then you got to prove why this person sat out. Or if they sit out, you got to pay, X amount of money for them to sit out consecutive games or X amount of games in this time of a window. You can put provisions like that in, but as far as like the play and the results and tanking being like this overarching NBA problem, I think it's just kind of blown out of proportion. And
Well,
as
I
we
think
get through
it's
that,
just
I'll explain it.
so when we first had this conversation last week, I was vehemently, against what you're talking about. As we've had time to reflect on it a little bit, I see where you're coming from, but I think that the problem is just, and this is something that you've hinted at before, is that some of these dudes are just happy to be in the club. They're just happy having a team, making the money. So they don't necessarily care about, as long as the checks are coming, like the ticket sales.
And we talked about last week, Ray John, they're bargained, they're negotiated. These are business deals. The business deal
but I do think that it's a problem.
It's not incumbent upon the results of your team. It's simply, what is the deal for the TV deal? Your individual prices, how much you can sell your jerseys for, how much you can mark up your ticket prices, how much you can, sell your parking spaces for, and the valet and everything else. That's indicative of your team's performance.
You don't want these young dudes, theoretically, you don't want these young dudes to come into the league losing for 4 or 5 years. Because I do believe, there's a tangible thing that comes with, can this person be a champion or not? And if you spend your first 4 or 5 years losing, I don't know if you could just become a champion,
That's the thing. That's why it's called being a champion. It's not for everybody. Everybody can't be summa cum laude. Like, it's
but you should want to be. But you should want to be.
And that's perfectly fine. So you got to work on your craft. You got to work on your game. You got to work on your shot. You got to work with your coaching staff. You got to work with your team.
Right. So if I'm a team like Memphis, and I got a Ja Morant,
team has to be more mature. He individually has to make mature decisions. The NBA can't legislate to him his maturity and how his maturity leads to victories. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think people are trying to make this the NBA.
Theoretically speaking,
and it's not the NBA's problem to solve.
Theoretically speaking, Memphis still, their attitude is that of the Zebo Memphis Grizzlies, where we don't need the most talented players. We just got to be tougher than everybody.
A good coach unexpectedly. That has nothing to do with Ja Morant's jump shot. The executives of that team, the owners of that team, the people who signed that guy's check, who's still getting paid by them per his contract.
And then they hired a coach whose style he can't play.
But once again, that is not Adam Silver's problem. So Memphis Grizzlies not looking good on Amazon Prime Thursday Night Basketball is not Adam Silver's doing. He didn't tell them to fire a coach that had you second in the West a couple of years before you fired him.
I think that it's his problem because he's the commissioner / face of the league when it comes to public matters.
You got to give him approval over hirings and firings.
You still have to.
If you got to run all the trades by him before it can even be finalized, he has to say, I approve of the merits of this trade, not just the legalities of it. Like, I think this is a good idea for Dallas to get AD. And
so you want him to straight up be Gestapo status?
He can't, and that's what I mean. So you can't levy all the responsibility at his feet to solve.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying
that's how the press conferences and his stance. He's
the face that everybody sees. You know what I mean? But I think that what comes with that,
if guys come in the camp,
they will fire you.
Is that Roger Goodell's fault? No.
They will oust you if they aren't getting their bottom line. So what I'm saying is that his responsibility is to try to put the best product on the floor that you can. You know what I'm saying?
The bottom line is fine.
That product is bad.
With their best product. No.
Yes, but the product is bad.
They don't use Brooklyn as the example when they go to the TV networks. They use Steph Curry. They use the Lakers. They use the Knicks. They use the glitz and glamour of the upper echelon traditional powers of the NBA. That's who they negotiate with. They don't say, look how many people watch Brooklyn versus Washington on a weekly basis. They say, look how many people watch the NBA finals. That's what they use. They're the
no,
NBA's
100%.
negotiation piece
But I still have
is the
to.
upper teams. So no matter
But
how bad the bottom teams are, they still got these deals
no,
because
but
they negotiated with
theoretically,
the top tier teams.
you should want your team, your league, to be as best as possible. Yes, there are going to be bottom teams. There's going to be middle teams. There's going to be teams that never win a championship. But fans are still paying money for these games that are not on TV, that it still should be entertaining. Not like the team don't have to be good, but it still should be an event that you should want to go out to.
Yes.
Like you being in Jersey, right? You ain't trying to go to no Nets game.
Yeah. First of all, it's way out in Brooklyn. It's not like a convenient drive. If I had a weekend or make a weekend of it, then probably. But I'm not paying, New York Symphony prices to watch a team that doesn't have any stars, that doesn't play hard, and the final score is going to be 101 to 89. And then I'm paying $20 a beer and $15 for garlic fries. That's the whole piece. So I understand that. But as far as tanking as the problem of tanking, Steph Curry was asked. They were asking Steph Curry, and I didn't even get his answer. It's just I could tell by his tone where he was going. The reporter said something about tanking. He said, "How many teams are tanking?" And they were like, how many teams are tanking? And that's the thing. I always make the argument every time. It's like, all right, if I ask you a follow-up question to this thing that you're outraged about, explain to me what bothers you.
Well, I say
this
4.
Team, Utah sat these guys with 7. Cool.
I say there are 4 teams.
Did you go into this season? Did you go into the season not you, but the proverbial sense? Did you go into the season thinking to yourself yo, Utah got a top 5 pick from Rutgers, and that guy's going to take over the league, and I can't wait for Utah to win 55 games and be competing in the Western Conference? No one entered the season with that thought in their mind. So why are you bothered by them not winning?
Because they were literally an improved team. You know what I mean? They weren't probably going to make the playoffs, but they were somewhere in that play-in range for a little bit. And then they just decided, no, we're too good. Let's make some trades and let's do this and let's sit this person and let's sit that. So it's different because
Milwaukee won a championship and then hired
answer your question. I think there's 4 teams that are tanking right now.
Okay.
I think there's 4. I think Utah is tanking. You know what I'm saying? I think Brooklyn is tanking, but their tank started before the season. They're just tearing it down and not trying to get better right now per se. Washington's tanking. And of course they brought in AD and Trey, and are they even going to? Well, AD's already shut down. You know what I mean? And Sacramento is tanking. Because the way that their team is built doesn't even allow for you to win, and they knew that coming into the year as well.
But unfortunately, that has been the problem, or a problem, for teams who are drafting in the top 6 or 8 without a major injury to your star from the previous year. So Washington has had a string of bad years. Sacramento's had a string. They had a couple of good years, and then they made managerial decisions where they got rid of De'Aaron Fox. They brought in Russ. They got they had the Golden State Warriors on the ropes that year when they were lighting the beam, and they were having a great run. You as an organization have to hold on to that. I talk about Minnesota all the time, and that trade to send Cat to New York. I thought it came out of nowhere, but someone said to them, I don't think we can make to this next level with this guy. And they made the move. And I'm not sure if that's going to work, but that's the problem.
Well, at least they got White Dante out of it too.
these teams, they make plans too. It's just that some people are just going to be at the bottom until they can get a complete overhaul. So you're not rewarding them. They're still at the bottom and have to rebuild in a league that is not designed to help the bottom rebuild. It's not like the NFL. The NFL, you'll have a cheaper salary cap. Free agents will want to come there. You still don't play that many games. Sometimes your location is enough to lure people over. You get
right, but the NFL
picks.
also doesn't have a luxury tax. The NFL also their draft, like we were talking about, I could get my franchise changing player at number 12.
Yeah,
He doesn't,
and also the NFL has it to where with the amount of divisions you have, you can turn your season around by simply just beating out the other 3 teams in your division, making yourself 9-8. Like, okay, the Carolina Panthers won.
You could go 8-9 these days.
Yeah, Carolina Panthers went 8-9, made the playoffs, and I'm guarantee you when free agency opens up, there's going to be someone that says, you know what? I could play linebacker there and maybe get to 10 wins because I'm looking at the other teams. But that's what the NFL is built for, teams to go from worst to first. The NBA does not have that avenue for the bad teams. 100%. I don't think you should reward them, but it's like you got to do something if you really want to help out. Like my suggestion was giving them a little percentage higher in the salary cap. Like, hey, get some extra bodies in here. Let's help you out as much as we can.
Let's run through the rest of these real quick. So then the next one is teams can't pick in the top 4 the year after making the conference finals. So obviously that would affect the Pacers this year if this rule was in effect.
Yeah, their star got hurt in Game 7 of the finals.
And I also think of the Mavs when I think of this rule too, because they won the NBA title. Back when they beat the Heatles, and then they let Tyson Chandler walk. They didn't re-sign JJ Barea. They let a couple of role players go, and it was like a new team. I wouldn't say they tore it down per se, but it was definitely a different team.
Or when LeBron left Cleveland 2018, he went to LA. So them not being as good as they were with him, it's like how can you punish? Yeah, how are you missing? How are you going to punish the Cavaliers twice? Like they lose their star, he goes to LA, and then because you guys were in NBA Finals the year before, you can't get your lottery pick that you probably earned because your best player left.
Well, you'll still get a lottery pick; it just won't be top 4.
But once again, why? How is my bad year this year hurting me because I had a good year the year before?
You know why? Because this is so. This is
like I said, the problem isn't overarching in the NBA. I see if it was an overarching problem in the NBA, but it isn't. It's just tanking as itself is an eyesore, but it's not an NBA problem.
I think the problem is
a problem in the NBA.
They didn't solve things as they were happening. As we used to say back in the day, nip it in the bud. So when these guys were load managing and taking games off, TV games and all this kind of, the stuff that they were doing.
They hit him with the 65
That's when Adam Silver should have been talking about these, not necessarily this, but talking about something. So they came up with the 65 game rule where you can't win awards if you don't play the 65 games.
I think that's
no context. Effective. I like it, but it's still
I think that's a better, because that was more of a problem than tanking. The guys who were in the All-NBA Defensive Player of the Year, MVP running, those guys drive the ticket prices up. So if I'm booking a game for Knicks Lakers next week and I paid the $600 or $700, whatever the number is from that secondary reseller, and then Luka and LeBron don't play, they're just resting. Most of them don't do that with the Knicks, but maybe Brooklyn. Maybe they play the Knicks game on Sunday night, but they don't play the Brooklyn game on Monday. And I buy tickets for the Brooklyn game because it's cheaper than the Knicks game, because I just want to see Luka and LeBron. And they play the Knicks game all, 48 minutes, and then they don't play the Brooklyn game. That was an actual problem for the league because it was happening with every single superstar in marquee matchups where the money was actually being impacted. No one's losing money not seeing Brooklyn play basketball. I'm like, no one's like, oh, damn, I can't believe they sat Denham. Like, let's keep it. Like, I can't believe.
Well, that's the thing. I think Adam Silver, for lack of better words, he's throwing shit at the wall and hoping that it sticks. You know what I mean? Because, just like with the NBA Cup, let's generate more interest in the regular season, early season, and all they did was make the courts ugly. You know what I mean? That ain't attractive. I'm not watching that. I hate the courts. But then the next one is your lottery odds could be based on 2-year records. So this is where you get into
there could be 7 different players that had an impact on your record from 2024, 25.
And that's the problem. And that's why I said a lot of these rules they lack context, because you can't punish Milwaukee for losing Giannis the same way that you punish the Jazz for sitting out their players. It's not the same thing. You know what I mean? So that has to matter, but you can't necessarily, but when you make a rule change like this, that's going to be league-wide and so widespread, you can't necessarily pick and choose either. You know what I mean? So that's where if some of these go into effect, they're going to be painting themselves into a corner that they can't back, and they're going to end up changing it 2 years after they install it.
Because what they're trying to do, they threw the 65 game rule covers every award. It puts the onus on every star, every rising star.
Yeah, and it affects the all NBA teams.
Every coach of every team that has a rising star. Just that simple salient rule identifies that and rectifies that problem. The reason the tanking rules don't make any sense, because that's not the actual problem. The problem is the fact that these teams can't turn their seasons around because either management won't allow it, or there's not enough resources as far as the players they can get, or there's not enough money. There's something that's lacking there. It's not a rule, because some teams are going to lose. They're going to play hard and lose. Like maybe if you say, hey, your point differential has to be, within reason. But even then, it's like, so you're going to punish us because we don't have a top flight score. Like we don't have a 40-point triple-double guy on our roster. Like every team doesn't have that. So even if we lose games 123, if we only give up 113 points, if we don't have an offense or a team or a coach that can get us 114, we're going to lose a lot of games.
Yeah, so then you got the lottery extended to include all play-in teams. So I definitely hate that one, because I don't even like the loser of the play-in to be in the lottery.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
You hate all of this stuff because none of it makes sense. I'll give you a quick example. I just saw a video earlier. Mondani, the mayor of New York City, said, hey, we need people to remove snow. Go into these offices, fill out the application. You can start today. It was like $30 an hour. I think they bumped it up to like emergency funds, like $45 an hour, because they need to get people moving. It's a simple rule for a simple problem. You have a snow problem. I gave you one thing that can fix it. Yo, come get this money and go shovel the snow. Our problems are solved. They're not trying to figure out how to get the snow from stop piling up in February when it snows in New York. They're not trying to figure out to put certain awnings on buildings to block the snow from getting to the sidewalk. It's like, listen, the snow's going to fall to the sidewalk. How do we fix this? Cool. Let's get a bunch of people here who probably don't have jobs or are willing to work extra hours to shovel it out. And now we're clear. How do we fix tanking? We help the teams that are doing poorly. Either you send in consultants to help them hire coaches or hire GMs, or you send in a consultant before they're like, hey, you guys get a little bit more micromanagement. Like, you can't fire your coach until you talk to one of these consultants, an analytics consultant, a personnel consultant, whomever that works for the league, and do like an arbitrator case and be like, okay, because you're going to set your organization back X amount of years, because if you keep firing coaches, it doesn't make your destination, viable for young coaches who want their opportunity. If you're firing guys who have championship experience or been on championship staffs after a year and a half, if I'm a new up-and-coming offensive guy on the Golden State staff, I'm not going to want to go to Washington knowing that, they've been firing coaches in a year and a half. So it just sets a bad tone. That stuff can be addressed. But losing basketball games, there's no ties. Someone's going to have to lose. And everybody can't go 41-41 on the season. Somebody's going 20-62, and there's probably 3 or 4 teams that will go 20-62 or 18-64. It just happens that way. No matter how good the league was, no matter when Jordan was playing, Magic. I mean, hell, Magic went to the Lakers. Number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Larry Bird was a top 3 pick. Jordan was a top 3 pick. If you get the right guy, you can turn your franchise around. Problem is, these guys aren't getting the right guy. But it's not tanking that's causing them to not get the right guy. So putting all these rules up for tanking, you're just shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah. So I think that you're on to something there. And like I said, a lot of this is just bluster. You know what I mean? Like Adam Silver's upset because the league is being criticized. I don't know how, because the whole point of this, the NBA draft, is there's only 1 to 2 dudes in this draft that we think have the ability to turn into a superstar. You know what I mean? And like last year, we had the 3, so that was an outlier year. This year is probably an outlier year because the draft is so deep. But but back in 84, it was Olajuwon, Bowie, Jordan, and Bowie got hurt. It became Olajuwon, Jordan, and a lot of people don't really talk about a lot of other players that were in that draft. So that's why like some of this is important. So I don't think even the play-in teams, meet the intent because they're at the brink of the playoffs, and 2 of them or 4 of them get in, by virtue of winning that play game. Now this last one, flattening the odds, for the lottery teams, this is where it gets kind of interesting because before the number 1 pick or the whoever had the number 1 odds had a very significant advantage over everybody else. So then in the recent years, we've gone to the top 3 teams all have the same chance. So it's 14%. All top 3 teams have a 14% chance of getting the number 1 draft pick. And then it goes down slightly, with each team from there. So if we flatten it, then it's game on for everybody. And it doesn't matter where you finish. So out of all the rules that are on this list, this is probably the only one that makes sense because you're basically taking away and stripping that advantage, and we're just going to put these balls in the raffle or whatever, and we're going to yank them out, and that's where they're going to go. Versus this team has 36 balls, this team only has 27, and so on and so forth. So I like that one, and I think that's the way that it should be. Like out of all these rules, I think that's the one. Besides my own, because I did like the whole you can't finish top 4 2 years in a row. And I didn't like, I don't like that, or, So, but this one, I think you can install this and not even have to do any of the others.
It still doesn't solve your problem because those same 14 teams are going to be in no matter what. It doesn't make them play harder. You're not solving. You're just
play harder, but I think you just play basketball because
you're just creating a new
teams. If you do that, if you flatten the odds, and these dudes are sitting players or whatever, then it's like this is like so. Like to your point, right? Because your point is
we're not a playoff team. We're probably going to lose games anyway. We're a bottom team, so we're not getting a draw on TV anyway. So there's no incentive for the team to even tank because like someone's going to be bottom 14. It's 30 teams. 16 of them are going to be in the major playoffs, and then the other 14 are not. So no matter what your record is, you're just not going to be there. But if I'm Indiana and I lost my star and the other guy walked in free agency, or if I'm Brooklyn, where it's like I had a bunch of bad contracts for years and I got guys out and I got some draft picks in, and I'm trying to work all these things out. Or if I'm Washington, where it's the same thing. I had a no trade clause with Bradley Beal. I was paying John Wall all this money, and I never got an opportunity to develop guys and keep guys, and I'm making these asinine trades. Or you're Charlotte, who's had a good run, and you happen to just fall out at the play-in. You're just getting, and Charlotte ends up getting another top 3 pick because you just flatten the odds. Brooklyn is still going to be bad. So the following year, they are not going to be able to even look like they're not tanking because they're still going to be a bad team because they're making these rules to say these bad teams are tanking. Really, they're just bad teams. So you're not helping. You're just kicking the can down the road. You're not helping these teams. Excuse me.
Maybe we'll see what they install, but I'm here for it. We'll see what happens. But in other news, our president, our fearless leader, is going to tackle the problems in college sports. A roundtable with the Nick Sabans of the world, or some ADs, some coaches, some former coaches like Mac Brown. Ron DeSantis will be there. The president of the Yankees will be there. What they going to accomplish, Mr. Logical?
Not a damn thing. Pissing into the wind with their hand over their dicks. Just useless. It's a waste of time. Because the argument, and this is an argument that I make all the time, people are saying that the money that the players are getting is ruining college football. The transferring is ruining college football. So I typed in top revenue schools between 2005 and 2020, going from the Reggie Bush, Texas, Vince Young, Matt Leinart, greatest national championship game I can recall, like in that time from the BCS, till 2020 up to COVID. You want to guess who the top 7 teams are? I bet you can get them all.
Ohio State.
That's one. They're 5.
Alabama.
They are 7.
Georgia.
There are 2.
Michigan.
They're 3.
Notre Dame.
They're 4.
It'll get tougher after that because I kind of want to say Oregon, but they don't fit. They don't fit the mold. Overall.
You don't like this team. You think they're the most overrated program in football.
Oh, don't tell me it's the Gators.
No, Texas is one.
Texas.
Revenue.
Yep. They are the most.
Penn State.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
so,
there you go.
These teams were getting all this money from 2005 to 2020. You think their pockets are hurting now? You think they're actually being hurt by the players getting paid? No, because I'm going to throw you another little stat here. College football playoffs significantly increased NCAA revenue by more than doubling the payouts compared to the previous Bowl Championship Series. So not only are the schools getting more, want to know how much more? They were getting $34.2 million under the BCS. Now they're getting $83.5 million. So the schools are getting more money. They have already generated a bunch of money before they paid the players, and now they're getting more money. So it's not the players and the players getting money. It's the lack of control that they have over the players that they want to have a roundtable about. It has nothing to do with the money. The money is there. The people are getting hired. Nick Saban's agent represents 14 other coaches who are all the top paid players, like the top 14 paid coaches in college football.
And most of them are probably the top paid employee in their state too.
And this one guy controls all of that. And he uses each guy as leverage against the other school. So like the money is fine. The problem is control. And that's what they want. If they just came up with some simple transfer rules that didn't hurt the players and allowed them to move if necessary with limits, it'd be fine. But they just want the control.
So this is my problem. It's just like we were just talking about with the NBA. You're just making up rules and trying to do things just to do them, to show that you have the iron fist, to show that you are in control. But the problem is, so don't get me wrong, NIL does the guardrails. It absolutely does. You know what I mean? But for the stuff that Trump is talking about, because he's talking about these schools are going to go broke, they can't pay these players, 12 million, 10 million, and all these numbers that he put in the quote. But this is the overall problem.
Don't offer him $12 million if you can't pay him $12 million.
I mean, yeah, there you go. That's simple.
I just called my insurance company, was like, hey, I'm paying too much for these other people. Can I pay you less? And they're like, yeah, we cover you the same way. Cool. So if I can't pay this quarterback $14 million, I go get this other guy for 1.4 million, and he'll get me 2,300 yards and 25 touchdowns, and this guy gets you 2,800 yards and 26 touchdowns.
There's a couple of problems here. The first one is they're addressing the wrong thing as far as having the president or governors or Congress and politicians involved. If you're going to have those people involved, what you need to be talking about is the cost of tuition and how much is student loans and things along those lines. But they don't care about that because the government and they benefit from that. So the second problem is the TV deals. You know what I mean? We talk about the Big Ten with their $7 billion TV deal, but you're going to talk to me about you can't pay players, or like you don't have enough money to pay them and still survive or whatever. That sounds like somebody needs some financial courses.
They want their cake and they want to eat it too, and they want somebody else to serve it for them on beautiful plates with gold utensils. That's what they want. And it's like, you can't have it that way. Because at first the conversation was, how do we pay the players? And they're like, we don't know, so we can't do it. And that was the end of the conversation. Now teams are being greedy and the players are exercising their leverage.
So Miami just gave Darian Mensah
bamboozled by a 22-year-old.
Miami just gave Darian Mensah allegedly $10 million. You know what I mean? They made $20 million just off of what they did in the college football playoff last year. So that's before any concessions, any ticket sales. That's before any tuition was paid by anybody. That was before all. Get to all that.
Like we talk about, they got $3 million to travel, and the game was in Miami, so that wasn't even touched.
Fraud, waste, and abuse. Where's Doge at? You know what I mean? And so that's the problem. So the other problem, the third thing that I was going to say is, and I don't know if this is possible, but getting these other sports to generate money. You know what I mean? Because the football program basically, in basketball to a lesser degree, basically pays for the rest of the programs. The swimmers, the lacrosse team, field hockey, so on and so forth. The football pays for all that. You know what I mean? Now, you got your people like Livy Dunn that came through to LSU, and I think she was getting about a $4 million NIL deal at the time.
She was getting a crazy NIL deal.
But she was the outlier because she's the only other athlete that didn't play for LSU basketball or football that people recognized, whether it was facially or name-wise. So, you know what I mean? So, for one, if you market the players better, because I know people go say this ain't professional sports, but they're acting like it. So if you market the players, guess what? The school might not have to pay them so much NIL because a car dealership will, throw in some money. The local restaurant will throw in some money.
Window. As soon as the schools were legally allowed, it was like a financial purge. When there was for 24 hours, you can offer whatever you want to pay these players, whatever the number is. And the players started asking for $10 million. And you as a coach who's getting $8 to $10 million at insert whatever school, you need to win or they're going to fire you. So you figure out a way to get a car dealership or a booster or a former alumni to write a check so you can pay this guy because this guy is going to be transcended in your program. You did that. The NCAA, the teams, Fran Brown talks about it in Syracuse. If a school is going to pay you $3 million and all I have for you is $330,000, then you'd be a fool to take my $330,000 over their $3 million. But sit here for a couple of years. I'll get you developed enough to where if they call for that $3 million, then you know what? You're free to go. Thank you for your time at Syracuse. But the schools jumped out the window because they were so excited because they thought, oh, now I'm just going to buy a championship. And it hasn't worked for these traditional schools who like to buy it all up because they were so used to just being one of these top sevens who could just, they were paying players under the tables. All these guys, all these allegations, all these guys driving cars, all the coaches seem to own car dealerships for some reason. and all these guys keep getting in trouble for cars. They're always at parties. They're on the sideline wearing a lot of jewelry. This is before the NIL. So they were hanging out with agents on yachts. It's been crazy. Michael Irvin talks about it all the time. We've seen plenty of documentaries about Florida. We need a real documentary about Florida. Aaron Hernandez, Tim Tebow, Urban Meyer, Cam Newton. We need that behind-the-scenes footage because that has to be crazy with the players they had on that team. Like a real nitty-gritty kind of Last Dance type documentary. But guys have been getting paid forever. They made movies about it. Guys have gotten in trouble for it. It's just that these teams decided to just jump out the window, and they thought that the money in the name of the school was going to be enough to just maintain that and encapsulate all that control. And it didn't happen. So now you have Congress and the president. You have people who can't negotiate deals to ensure that people keep their health insurance. Because at this point, 4.8 million people are going to lose their health insurance this year, and 10 to 17 million between now and 2034. But yet you guys got time to negotiate that Duke shouldn't have to pay a buyout. You guys got time to negotiate. And if they pull it off, get $6 million or $5 million. Like,
if they come out with something, they're going to be heroes.
Go to the dentist. How about you make sure people don't go broke trying to pay for leukemia treatments? How about you figure out people can go get that lump checked out? Like, that's your damn job. Your job isn't to be concerned with whether or not Dabo Swinney can recruit the portal and how much money Clemson has to pay their next guy. I use Clemson as an example because I was thinking off the top of my head. But that's not the government's job. Do your job that you're elected for. No one elected you to go handle Ohio State and Michigan player negotiations.
But that's the crazy part about it, because they just announced the revenue sharing at the beginning of last season, and we haven't even seen it in effect yet. You know what I mean? So I don't even know what they're meaning about outside of, hey, yo, I think these players getting paid too much.
The players have too much leverage. I don't even think it's the money. I think it's the fact that they can just leave. That's why Nick Saban had probably has the best, historically, one of the best sports programs as far as success. His coaching tree is outstanding. They're winning national championships. His players are some of the top tier players in the NFL. Some of them headed to the Hall of Fame. So he has built probably one of the top tiered programs in a day and age where the expectation was you can't keep players, you can't keep them happy. They only want this, that, and the third. And he was able to do it. And he was like, he saw the NIL stuff. And he was like, I'm not dealing with this. So if you're not dealing with it, stay all the way out. Just stay all the way out of it. Take whatever money Aflac and ESPN is giving you and stay out of it. Or come back and coach. Like my dad told me, listen, son, you're going to watch your son play football from the stands, or you can be on the sideline. Be a coach or be a fan. You're going to be a fan, stay your ass in the stands. If you're going to retire as coach, you don't get to come back and dictate to all the other coaches how they need to run their programs unless you try to be a consultant that they hire you individually. You don't get to overhaul this whole thing because you're buddies with the president and you golf at Mar-a-Lago. It's not your damn job.
There you go. But you know what? Governor Mike Braun, you know, saying his job isn't to lure NFL teams to his state, but he might be just about to. You know, Indiana, you know, passed legislation to get started. Well, not to get started, but they approved the Bears building a stadium in Hammond by a vote of 40-4. Illinois, you know, had their meeting today. You know, the House and Finance Committee pushed it through, and it stopped right there in its track. We're going to be coming back in March. It sounds like we're going to be coming back in March for another vote. But Governor Pritzker of Illinois, I don't know if he's playing a role here, trying to be the tough guy, but I saw him and he was saying things along the lines of like, I'm not going to let you shake me down. You know, you are not going to run roughshod over this, like things like that. And so the whole thing is, as I brought up last week, it's about the taxes. The Bears want to freeze the taxes for a certain period of time. They're paying for the stadium themselves. They got the site at Arlington Heights. You know, there's nothing but dirt there now. And then the state of Illinois was like, here's this tax bill for this dirt. And I think that was kind of what set the wheels in motion. So do you think, or actually, let me rephrase, from where we started last week to where we are today, do you feel more likely that the Bears are going to move?
Yes. I feel more likely that they're going to move. And I'll go back to the point that I made when we originally talked about it. The fans will still be able to get there with relative ease. If you lived west of the stadium, it might take you a little longer because the team is moving east into Indiana, but they're not moving that far from where they were originally playing. So with that being said, I think that will be enough for the fans to keep going. Now, if Chicago or Illinois as a state have a plan to replace whatever money the Bears generated, and maybe that's the case, maybe it was like the Bears didn't generate enough money just being in the state of Illinois that they're like, you know what? We will survive without them being here. Because we talked about like a small base. We talked about when we were stationed at Hill. Every time they brought up that they were going to close Hill, all the politicians, local mayors, and just, talking heads of Utah would come out and say, like, you can't. It's our biggest employer in the state of Utah. Of Utahns, like Utah state residents, the base is their biggest employer. So they will lobby and they would win. If they don't feel like the Bears have that kind of cachet or that, then they'll probably just let them go. And they'll use the property to sell houses and raise property taxes, and they'll generate that money over a 20-year window versus the 10-year window that we're going to get from the Bears.
Yeah, so in the bill that was presented today, it wasn't just Bears specific. It was about mega businesses in general. The problem here is that they're telling the taxpayer, if you want to keep the Bears, your life is going to be hell, because you're going to take over like the money that the Bears aren't paying on these property taxes or whatever. The money, like you said, the money's got to come from somewhere. Like we have to have a running state budget and all that kind of stuff like that. So from that standpoint, that's strike one, is the taxpayer is going to be on the hook. Now, with Indiana passing the bill, especially so decisively as they did, they're showing the Bears, I'm committed to you and I'm willing to give you the whole front porch, the back porch, and if you want the side of the house, you can get that too. Whereas in the bill that the Bears or that the Illinois lawmakers presented today, it talked about the property taxes. You know what wasn't in it? The particulars about a stadium. You know what I mean? So because the Bears
want the property tax. Yeah, they're focused on the property tax, and that's what they want from the Bears. And the Bears are like, yo, we're offering $2 billion for the stadium.
And
I think the conversation was like $3.2 billion overall. Like, yeah, we're pledging $2 billion.
But see, this is where negotiation comes in, right? Like, this is where negotiation comes in, right? Because when you negotiate, someone says something completely outlandish that is not realistic in any kind of way, and then you find your way to each other. So Chicago, the Bears, their proposal was freeze our property taxes for 40 years.
Yeah, that's a good starting point to say no. Like that's like nah.
Yes, and maybe you end up
at what you want to do. You want to extend your time to 40 years. That's too long.
Maybe you end up at 15. But maybe you get something out of it. You know what I mean?
Go 5 years, they come back with 20, and then you settle on 7.
Yeah, so that's where we are right now. Is I don't think much changed today. I think that the state, so the committee only voted 13-7. So now I told you that the Indiana lawmakers voted this thing 45-4. You know what I mean? Now this was just the House Financial Committee, and it only passed by 6 votes. to go to the actual house where it didn't move. It didn't move. It just stalled again. So if I'm the Bears, I don't know if, and this is where you get into the legality of things. I don't know if the Bears just give Indiana a verbal agreement, like the same way that a commit gives a college a verbal commitment, but then signing day you can sign with another team. So I don't know if that's the move.
As I'm looking at the proposal, the Bears in Indiana. No, so here we go. So for the Bears deal, the Bears will offer $2 billion in their private funds. Public contribution would be $1 billion. We paid in local taxes, 12% ticket tax, 1% food and beverage tax in the Lake and Porter counties, and a 5% increase in hotel taxes. Arlington Heights was $2 billion, $855 million in public funds. So, I think the funds are probably throwing them off, because if you say it might cost $3 billion, that's a lot of money spent. And I think that's more than I think maybe the SoFi Stadium might have been 2.5 to 3. I know Atlanta was somewhere like 1.5. I believe the one in Minnesota just was built was like 1.2. Jerry World was $1 billion. So you're looking at 3 times some of the newest stadiums that we have in the league. I imagine that's probably full of a lot of things that go wrong.
5.5.
And because the initial thing I read was like 2.5 to 3. So it probably was like, oh, we need to build this whole area out. We want to put hotels on it, or now we need more land. So that $3.2 billion could probably balloon up to $5 billion. And Chicago's like, well, listen, we're gonna give you $1 billion, $855 million in public funds, then we're gonna want this property taxes to run it up so we get that money back quicker. You trying to hold off on 40
Indiana
years.
has shown that commitment. You know what I'm saying? They built Lucas Oil for the Colts. The Pacers got Conseco Fieldhouse and left Market Square Arena. So Indiana has shown that they love their sports and they're willing to help the teams out, or whatever the case may be. So I still don't know if the Bears are right and Illinois is wrong, or vice versa. But what I think is that when you have a team that comes with the brand of the Bears, you exhaust yourself until you literally can't anymore. And I don't think Illinois
was like a very premature negotiation table exit.
Yeah, because I saw a quote.
A lot of money, but they're you're willing to deal with a lot of money. So I think
I saw a quote.
The money is relevant, it doesn't matter, but it's you're dealing with billions of dollars. So now you can talk out these fine details just because of the magnitude of the money you're talking about. There's you can't.
I saw a quote from one of the Illinois. I saw a quote from one of the Illinois lawmakers that said something along, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said something along the lines of, "This is not competition between governments. We're moving at our own pace." That's how you get left behind.
Or you
just don't believe that maybe they're calling the Bears' bluff.
But that's the thing. The bluff would make sense if it was an extreme departure. There's apartments outside of where I live. They're pretty close. And if my son was listen, if you don't stop parking him or parking behind me when I gotta leave in the morning, I'm gonna move off base. And I'm like, man, it's right there. So if you want to move,
so you're saying that if the Bears will move,
but he's my
Idaho
life is the same pretty much right here. I'm going right out the gate. So it's the same drive to work.
So if the Bears decided
I'm relieved of you, so I'm relieved of dealing with you, and I'm right here. So if they're if you don't want to play ball, we could just go right over here, an additional 30, 40 minutes, and get everything we asked for, keep our fans, keep the name, and keep getting this NFL money. So either way. So
you think it would be more urgent if they were trying to go to San Diego?
Yeah, if they were trying to go far, then I think the Bears would have a little less leverage because you'd have to either be willing to upset your fan base or be willing to go to a place that you can guarantee you got to regenerate your fan base. Like the Rams going to LA is you're going to a football state.
And they've been there, and they used to be there.
They used to be there. You're going to the football region of the football state. You have USC. You played in USC's stadium till yours was built. You brought the Chargers with you, so you just automatically just kind of just moved a bunch of fans into that space. Chicago doesn't have that same leverage outside of the Midwest. I don't know if they can move to, let's say Utah wanted to get a football team. I don't know if you're getting the same turnout at the Ute Stadium for those couple of years before you found a place to build a stadium on, out in West Valley somewhere, or West Jordan, or something like that. I don't know if you have that same thing, and I think the Chicago lawmakers will have a little more leverage. But I'm like, I'm literally going a stone's throw away from where we currently are. Only thing changes is where we send the mail. So,
and I mean, I guess that's your talking point, right? Is that we're not leaving the fans.
Yeah, fans are coming right over.
Fans we'll catch that train right over here.
We'll get new bus routes with Bears logos on them.
Because being a Bears fan is culture, right? You know what I'm saying? Like the Jets, like the Giants, like the Steelers. You know what I'm saying? It's a part of your identity. Like if you're a Bears fan, Bears is part of your identity.
It's
the Bears.
Yeah.
That's
they can go 6-11 as long as they win all division games. They're happy.
And if you're the fan to some degree, you're like, yeah, let Indiana pay for all that.
And if you're a fan that likes the game, but you don't want to sit outside in December, January and watch it, you're gonna get a dome out of it. So, like I said, personally, I think it's a great advantage to have, but because I think it helped them in that game against the Rams. Because I saw every time they called a timeout, the equipment staff was running out with those heated jackets for the Rams players, and the Bears, most of them were just standing there. So I'm like, it is your advantage. And without a bad interception, I think you win that game over a team that's probably more talented. But I don't think they can do what they were able to do because it was so cold. But if that game is 70 degrees on some super nice turf with air conditioning lights and neon lights and a big, beautiful monitor they can watch their replays, it's a track meet.
Yeah,
so
100%.
Like I said, if you're a fan, you're going to get a dome out of it. Indiana, hey, man, we got a 20-minute ride versus a 10-minute ride. Let's do it.
Right. All right, guys. So we will be back on Tuesday. You know what I'm saying? And you know what that means, right? Because I don't know if you know, but March, it's coming. When we return on Tuesday, it will be March. So we're going to talk about some March Madness, maybe some conference tournaments. We're going to have some more NBA for you going around the association. He is the one and only world famous, world renowned, cool, calm, and collected. Born in Texas, raised in VA, representing New Jerusalem, even though he got those Virginia blues. He is Mr. Logical. Don't bring feelings to a fact fight.
Don't do it.
And then down here in the Alamo, your unorthodox statistician, going left so much you thought I was southpaw, going left so much that Floyd Mayweather was so impressed with me that he decided to come back. I am 2-5. I believe in Joe Hendry. Your job, believe in us. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things. Do all the good things. Liquid Death in hand. Everywhere you get your podcast. Check us out. Say less, say more. Shout out to the gang. We love y'all. Apparently, Mr. Logical is trying to be a genius here.
It's a gift. I can't help it.
Boom. See y'all in a few days, y'all.
to go down.
Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep